You know, there is data and information tied to just about everything we do these days. An Air Force veteran in Cincinnati who has a love for analytics and data has spent the past 20 years gathering those bits of information to help the next generation of service members transition.
Hard part for me was that my entire identity was linked to the military.
Brian Niswander spent over 30 years in the Air Force between active duty and the reserves. He was an intelligence officer, gathering bits of information and translating that into actionable intel, a skill he carried over to Procter & Gamble.
I started off on a brand team doing market research. So in other words, taking data and information and putting it into context for decision making. The exact same thing you do in the intel business.
Being kind of a data nut, he decided as a side gig to begin gathering data about and from current service members going through the transition process, as well as veterans who've already gone through it.
So this is actually where you're gathering the data.
This is where the data is collected from.
And some of the data gathered has been surprising when it comes to the challenges of leaving the uniform behind.
On the Army side, actually, the transition we find it to be a little more difficult. Right? So now, from an Army veteran, it goes up to 53%. 53% of Army veterans say that it's more difficult.
He's showing me his website's dashboard, where he's now taken 2 decades worth of information and created this free portal for service members to get guidance specific to their military role.
In our dashboard, you can go in and you can put your branch, your rank, your years of service, your specialty, your MOS, military occupational specialty, your AFSC, what we call it in the Air Force, and your years of service, and it will actually give you 10 pages worth of data that align to your profile.
There's even a portal for military spouses who often find themselves in challenging roles, shifting careers for the sake of the mission.
They can put in their background, education, skills, experience, and it gives the same type of data for military spouses. And then we also have resources to help them overcome employment challenges.
Brian says since the data is directly from those who've gone through the transition, the information can lay out a great plan for their life after the military.
You really ought to start thinking about life after the military on the day that you put the uniform on, because decisions you make wearing a uniform will have an impact on your follow-on life.
Now, I do want to point out here that that story was shot prior to the current social distancing rules that are now in place. By the way, there is a lot more to this website that we could put into this story and the data that Brian has collected over the past 2 decades. It's all free to access and includes education and job resources, a ton of stuff. I put a link to his site on my Facebook page, McKeWCPO, and the Homefront Facebook group.